Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
on the other side of change.
We're talking sinners, we're talking the Met Gala, we are talking about Black and Asian solidarity just in time for AAPI Heritage Month, and we're talking with our brilliant friend Malavika Cannon.
Nothing about these alliances is necessarily natural, except for the fact that we all are people who are trying to stay safe.
Tune in only on The Other Side of Change on the Black Star Network.
Today is Thursday, May 29th, 2025. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Explosive testimony rocks the courtroom in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. His former assistant takes the stand accusing the hip-hop mogul of repeated sexual assault. We'll get the breakdown from legal analyst Candace Kelly. A federal appeals court granted the Trump administration's request to temporarily pause a lower court ruling that struck down most of Trump's Liberation Day tariffs. Elon Musk is out. The billionaire walks away from DOGE. Yeah, but the reality is he's leaving because his stock price took a hit and his other companies are imperiled. Black international students are being caught in the crossfire of a changing visa system. We're talking delays, denials, and deep uncertainty. So we'll discuss that on the show with an expert. Plus, RFK drops COVID vaccine recommendations for healthy kids and pregnant women, and health experts warn another pandemic could be on the horizon. Also, the boycott against Target continues. I will reiterate that and explain on the show as well. It's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, explosive testimony delivered today in the Sean Diddy Combs federal trial as his former assistant, referred to as Mia, characterized her work environment as chaotic and toxic, and she talked about repeated sexual assault. It was unbelievable. Legal analyst Candace Kelly joins us now. Candace, what the hell happened today?
Listen, this is Mia, victim number 4. This is someone who we heard about in opening arguments. As you said, she's someone who worked for Sean Diddy Combs as his personal assistant for several years right off the bat. She talked about staying awake for long hours, 5 days at a time, using Adderall in order to do that, saying that that was really the expectation, that she stay awake at all times. And she also said that Combs sexually assaulted her on several occasions. And she saw Sean attack Cassie Ventura on multiple occasions, even splitting her head open. Now, this is a story that we've heard before from Cassie, as well as yesterday's witness, Deontay Nash. And she says that most of these attacks did in fact happen in front of the full view and presence of Combs' staff and security. Now, this is a witness. We don't know her name. As she sat on the stand, she was crouched over, head down. The only people that could see her name were the members of the jury. She spoke in soft tones. She cried quite a bit. She was just very soft-spoken and did not want any of herself, her body, to be seen. It looked like this whole thing was just a traumatic experience, and you could hear that in every step of her voice. Now, she wept as she testified about Sean Combs sexually assaulting her on multiple occasions. As I mentioned, she said that she was required to sleep in his house. That was a part of his job. And that once he tried to force her to perform oral sex on her in an attack, said he came out of his closet with his penis out, and that she was expected to perform, and that's what happened. Another time, she said that she was down on the bottom of a bunk bed, and that when she was awakened, Combs was on top of her. Another time, he just put his hand up her dress, all unexpected, out in the open at his 40th birthday party. She also described on one time when she tried to get away that he slammed her arm in a door over and over again. She says she felt desperate and trapped, and she thought that it was all of her fault. Now, I want to talk about Prince's bodyguards. Prince was mentioned today because there was one particular time in 2010 when both of them, this would be Cassie and Mia, were invited to a party. And when they went to this party, they had to sneak out to do it. Well, somehow Sean Combs found out about it. And when he came to the party, she said that they recognized his hat coming across the room, came and got Cassie. They tried to run away. Sean Combs allegedly caught Cassie, started beating on her, but Prince's bodyguards saved her. Now, this is really unusual because we haven't heard of any bodyguards in any of the situations described from any of the witnesses.
When you say Prince's bodyguard, you mean Prince the artist?
I do. I mean Prince the artist.
Got it.
Yes, yes, indeed. And so this was a time where somebody, she said, finally saved them because the security guards, bodyguards were always around. But his bodyguard said, no, that's actually not going to happen here. She also talked about cleaning rooms after what she calls really nasty freak-offs, candle wax, broken glass, water on the floor, blood, oil. I mean, she really got to the details of all of this. Now, this is one thing that I think is very important that I'm about to say, and this has to do with the LA Police Department. If you recall, yesterday we heard from the police, and it was insinuated that the police perhaps got rid of DNA fingerprints from Kid Cudi's car and that firebombing on purpose. And this is when the defense attorneys tried to declare a mistrial. They said you cannot lead the jury to think that it was Sean Combs that had anything to do with getting rid of those fingerprints. But now today, Mia testified that on many, many occasions, that any time she was stopped by the police, whether she was speeding or something else, all she would do is drop Sean Combs' name, or sometimes Sean would be in the car and the police officers would say, get along. And this is really getting in the prosecution's point, I think, perhaps, that maybe there was some way that Sean Combs was working with the police in order to get him off on certain things, the least of it perhaps being a ticket. So the prosecution was able to get in that particular testimony. She was on all day tomorrow. Mia will be back out all day today. She will be back tomorrow in Cross. They're going to end the week with her. And another note, and this just has to do with the timeline, Judge Subramanian said that he wants deliberations to begin by July 4th.
Now, Mia is a pseudonym, and you've got a lot of folks already on social media declaring who this person was. And so that's not her real name.
Correct. Mia is a pseudonym. She is also someone else who filed a lawsuit in the name of Jane Doe. So they allowed her to get on the stand without saying her name. She did have to show her face, a white woman. But in terms of any of their characteristics and anything else, the judge really wanted everybody to be very cooperative to make sure that anything that could identify her would not be released to the public.
And as you laid out, I mean, she just describes it as a vicious, constant assault. I mean, so she detailed a harrowing experience working with and under Sean Combs.
Yeah, she did. And one of the things that we see is, and this is from people who've been involved in relationships with him or not, just, to personal assistance that we've heard, while they've seen the abuse, while they've suffered from the abuse, and all of it not sexual, a lot of it, some of it physical or just name calling, they all stayed or felt compelled in some way to come back. And I think that that's something that the jury will grapple with. But what we get is this theme of force and power and fear by so many of them, even fear today, as she sat, knowing that he's going back behind bars. She was just physically unable to kind of pull herself out of what seemed to be a post-traumatic stress disorder type of a situation and just sharing this information. But these people, they did come back saying that, listen, this was Sean Combs. In the industry, in this type of industry, everybody knows each other. So they were all afraid that they couldn't get a job if he told on them and said, listen, you don't want her, because that's how powerful he was. He could stop you from getting another job. So the thread is that I just felt compelled to stay there. Plus, I was scared. And I also was sometimes scared that I would die, as we heard from Capricorn Clark this week.
All right, then. We certainly appreciate it, Candace. Thanks a lot.
All right, Roland.
All right, folks, got to go to a break. We come back. A lot to break down right here in Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
This week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie, we're talking all things faith, family, and fatherhood. Men step in and out of our lives in a variety of ways as fathers, uncles, cousins, and different ways in which we enjoy their company and presence, and in other ways when they get on our nerves. This week on our show, we'll be talking about what it means to be a father, how women can support the men in their lives, as well as how do we heal the wounds that we've had from poor conversation, lack of desire, and all of the other ways that we sometimes as women check out and cause our men to feel emasculated. That's all this week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
This is Reggie Rock Byford. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, Uncut, Unplugged, and Undamn Believable. You hear me?
All right, folks. Let's deal with the idiots at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Okay? Trump's tariffs are back, at least for now. A federal appeals court just paused a lower court ruling that struck down that idiot's sweeping import duties, giving its administration a temporary win. The U.S. Court of International Trade ruled on Wednesday that Trump overstepped its authority by using emergency powers to impose tariffs on goods from China, Mexico, and Canada. However, on Thursday, a federal appeals court hit pause, reinstating the tariffs while both sides prepare their arguments due next month. The appeals court set deadline of June 5th for the plaintiffs to respond and June 9th for the government to reply. Now, this is, of course, kind of important. And what's hilarious, again, is you're really dealing with an idiot here. And someone who just in his mind, he thinks that we're going to make a ton of money off of tariffs, which is not going to happen. The idiot doesn't believe that the tariffs actually hurt the consumer. But then when he's talking about it, he's like, well, actually it does. And keep in mind, Jerome Powell, who heads the Fed, he told us last month that the tariffs of Donald Trump are going to hurt consumer prices. They're going to hurt the country. And these MAGA fools just keep believing the nonsense. This was the Fed chair just last month.
How much of the higher inflation forecast for this year is due to tariffs? And since the policy path remains the same, are you effectively reading this as a one-time price level shock?
Okay, so how much of it is tariff? So let me say that it is going to be very difficult to have a precise assessment of how much of inflation is coming from tariffs and from other, and that's already the case. You may have seen that goods inflation moved up pretty significantly in the first 2 months of the year. Trying to track that back to actual tariff increases, given what was tariffed and what was not, very, very challenging. So some of it, the answer is clearly some of it. A good part of it is coming from tariffs, but we'll be working, and so will other forecasters, to try to find the best possible way to separate non-tariff.
You got all of that going on, and the problem that you have is, as I said, how stupid MAGA is, and what gets me is they love judges that agree with them. They hate judges that rule against them. That white supremacist Stephen A. Miller, who really is a miscreant in this administration. This fool actually, now his title is Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor. I'm sure what this dumbass actually said. He, in complaining about the judges, he complained about the judges. Now, mind you, one of them is a Trump-appointed judge. So just want everybody to understand what we're dealing with here. He goes, we're living under a judicial tyranny. So you see right here, because he was responding to a tweet, the 3 judges who just overturns Trump agendas. So they show this here, Judge Gary Katzman. He, of course, 2016. Then they show Judge Timothy Reif. They show him here. And then they go, Senior Judge Jane Rastani. Here's the problem, y'all. One of those 3 is a Trump-appointed judge. So to show you how ridiculous they are, they whine and complain when judges rule against them, and then they want to limit their power. They want to do all those sort of different things. But then when the judges rule in their favor, or when they were ruling against President Joe Biden, then it was like, oh my God, they're amazing, they're great. These people are anarchists. They are fascists, okay? They don't believe in the rule of law. They don't believe that the law applies to them. They want to do whatever they want at any given time, and they don't give a damn what anybody thinks, including judges. And part of the problem that we have is the idiots on the Supreme Court, namely Chief Justice John Roberts, frankly allowed this to happen. They allowed this to happen because they told this fool that he essentially could do whatever it is he wants to do. So Donald Trump's whole deal is like, yo, I don't have any guardrails. There's no fence, there are no barriers. I could do whatever I want, and the Supreme Court allowed me to do it because they did not want him to be prosecuted for the crimes that he committed before he was sworn in the first time. So all of these things that you're seeing, everything that you're seeing right now, this complete dismissal, this arrogance, this attack on judges, it's because they believe that he's a king. Remember I told y'all from the Bible, God, we want a king. I'm sorry, you want what? In 1 Samuel. We want a king. All right, I'm going to give y'all a king. Y'all going to get Saul. And I'm going to tell y'all what he going to do. But these fools, they want us to accept anything that he does, and they're angry at these judges for doing it. And so now Chief Justice John Roberts has a problem. Now, Trump doesn't even respect Supreme Court rulings. Supreme Court ruled 9-0 for the Trump administration to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia from El Salvador. Trump goes, well, my people told me that they rule in our favor. What the hell are you talking about? They rule against your ass. And Trump does an interview and says, yeah, I can pick the phone up and I can call, bring him back, but I'm not going to do it. And Chief Justice John Roberts is sitting in the Supreme Court looking like a lackey, looking like a Charlie Brown walk around with his blanket, or Linus. What are we going to do? This is the moment where the courts should be holding folks in contempt and say, I'm going to throw your ass in jail, your ass in jail, your ass in jail. And if 3 more U.S. attorneys come in here giving me the same bullshit, I'm throwing them in jail. Bring Stephen Miller's ass in here. Bailiff, take his ass away because he's in contempt. The only way you're going to get these people to comply is if you actually put their asses in the slammer and tell them that etched in stone above the Supreme Court is equal justice under law, and that applies to your orange ass. But see, that's not going to happen. And do you know why it's not going to happen? Because if you're John Roberts, and if you're Sam Alito, and you're Brett Kavanaugh, and you're Gorsuch, and you're Clarence Thomas, and to some degree you're Amy Coney Barrett, you agree with Trump. Because that's your guy. You want his policies. You know that he's the Trojan horse that is going to drive the Federalist Society's agenda. You know that he is the Trojan horse that's going to drive the Heritage Foundation's agenda. You know that he is going to do whatever right-wing billionaires want him to do because he's a transactional imbecile who would do anything for money. And so what we need to understand is what we are dealing with right now, literally, is a thug who occupies the Oval Office, who does not listen to anybody. He ignores everyone, and they can't stand that. Let me bring in my panel today's show. Certainly glad to have them on the show. Reese Colbert, host. Reese Colbert Show, Sirius XM Radio, joining us out of D.C. Y'all, do this favor. Y'all need to put Reese's card. Reese, you still selling your game?
I am. I have them, a new version.
All right, so
Am I Trippin' Edition 2 are available for pre-order.
All right, so y'all need to send, there's a reason you need to send us a graphic. So include that in Reese's intro, please. Dr. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University out of Washington, D.C. as well. And then we got Dr. Nola Can't Fix No Gumbo Haynes. She is, of course, Georgetown University School of Foreign Service. As well. So what's wrong? I mean, temperature in D.C. is still like 57 yesterday. I'm just saying.
I'm going with Jesus today. I'm going to be graceful.
Are you going with Jesus? Are you going with Jesus just today? Okay, so who you rolling with the other 6 days?
That's no here, no there, but today I'm going with Jesus.
Okay, all right, got you. All right, I'm just checking. Greg, I made the point there that, these people truly believe. I was sitting here, Greg, last night, and I was reading our good friend Dr. Gerald Horne's book, The Counter-Revolution of 1836, Texas Slavery and Jim Crow and the Roots of U.S. Fascism. And he's going to be on the show tomorrow because I was a little pissed off watching this History Channel docuseries on the frontiersmen who helped build America. And I was a little pissed off watching that. Matter of fact, Leonardo DiCaprio is the executive producer of that. And I plan on getting a message to Leonardo DiCaprio that said, you should be ashamed of putting your name on anything that completely distorts and lies about American history. Because I watched, and I came home Monday, and my wife was watching it, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, what is that? And it was season 3, and I'm watching this, and they're talking about the fight for Texas independence, which I know very well. And I'm sitting there, and Greg, I'm sort of waiting to hear why they were fighting for, quote, Texas independence. Not one time did I hear slavery. Not one time did I, y'all, when I say not one time did I hear what the battle's over. Not one time did I hear why Santa Anna and the troops were there, and it was all about, how Davy Crockett, and they were fighting for Texas independence. No, they were fighting to steal land and for slavery. And so that's when I said, let's be sure to book Gerald so we can rip the History Channel for that travesty of a docuseries. And so when I was reading his book, and even he lays out in the introduction, he talks about how savage people like John Baylor was, and how they were killing Indians, how even Washington, D.C., the federal government was like, we ain't trying to kill everybody. But one of the things that he lays out here, he talks about how vicious these folks were in this Wild Wild West, and how in Texas, the Wild Wild West met slavery, and those two forces came together. And even what happened in Texas was exasperating folks in Washington, D.C. And I say that because these thugs now occupying 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, they literally are treating America right now like the savages were in Texas in the Wild Wild West, and how with the westward transformation of the country, how they were killing and maiming and destroying everything in their path to get what they want. And we now hail these folks as patriots, as the people who helped build America. We don't want people to know the real story of how savage and decrepit they are. That literally, Greg, are these people right now in power.
It is. It absolutely is. Something, Nola, you said last week when you were referring to not Christianity, not even Catholicism, but that kind of sect, that extremist, that Opus Dei sect. You think about somebody like Sam Alito, as you were talking, Roland, we can be reminded, as Gerald, I'm sure, will remind as you all have conversation about how Alito in oral arguments, I think it was around the Indian Child Welfare Act, it might have been the arguments in Brackeen versus Texas, where those white evangelical Christian, that couple wanted that Native American baby. He brought up the savage Indians. That's still their idea. They're on a crusade. These are crusaders. And Stephen Miller represents those crusaders. Elon Musk is a self-interested, self-involved capitalist, ruthless global capitalist. And so you see him now saying, listen, I couldn't buy the election in Wisconsin. My rockets are blowing up out the sky. I'm not selling Teslas in Europe. I'm getting ready to be ruined. I'm getting the hell out of here, deuces. And beefing with the true believers like Steve Bannon. And as you said, that decrepit Stephen Miller, they are absolutely loose in the world. But, the checks are there, because what we're facing now is a real threat to the continuing criminal enterprise called United States of America. And we know the business of America is business. Yesterday's Financial Times, Edward Luce, writing on the op-ed page, coined a new term. He called it the moron premium. He opened his op-ed and he said the name's bond, treasury bond, because that's the only force that has been able to stop Donald Trump so far. Now that is a push and pull. You're absolutely right. We saw what happened today with the courts, the Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. That is a court that has only existed since 1982, when legislation put together a merger of the Customs and Patent Appeals Court and the Appellate Division of the U.S. Court, which deals with basically everything, including tariffs in terms of trade. So that's a new court, relatively speaking. Jerome Powell met with Trump today and is like, yeah, I'm not moved by you ranting and raving. The only thing I'm worried about, and he says this publicly, he said that I'm worried about analysis made solely on careful, objective, non-political analysis, because the name's bond, treasury bond. This idiot tax, this moron premium could collapse the U.S. economy. And so even as, yes, the appeals court said, we will halt you from doing these tariffs for now, to allow you to appeal, another federal judge, George Contreras, blocked Trump from collecting tariffs from a couple of Illinois toy importers. So now he's got to appeal that. Why? Because he said what the circuit court said that was appealed to the Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. He said the same thing. He said that law you're using does not provide you with the power to impose tariffs. Ultimately, the law is going to prevail because in this country, the religious zealots can say what they want from Texas to today in terms of their religious zealotry, but the name's bond, treasury bond. And if you want to collapse the U.S. economy, it's going to be a lot harder than tweeting from your public housing toilet in the middle of the night like Trump or screaming like Stephen Miller. At least that's what it seems like to me.
Nola, I also have another book sitting right here. It is called Black Radical, The Life and Times of William Monroe Trotter by Carrie K. Greenidge. The reason I hold this up because William Monroe Trotter was a trailblazing black journalist who owned a black newspaper in Boston. And he was so hardcore that racist President Woodrow Wilson threw him out of the White House because he dared to challenge Wilson on his racist policies. I bring that up because this is a moment that we have to be operating where truth tellers are talking about what's happening and put it within a historical context. The idiot that occupies the Oval Office is truly, truly in love with another particular president by the name of Andrew Jackson. This is a lecture that was with the Organization of American Historians. And this is what they lay out here. It says the lecture description. And I don't use president before Donald Trump. But both Donald Trump and his severest critics touted his resemblance to President Andrew Jackson, although for nearly opposite reasons. But I disagree with them because I believe they are the same. And for people who are watching, this is why I need y'all to stop acting like history does not matter, because when you study history, you can have a full understanding of what people are doing present day to make the comparison. Go back to my iPad. It says, while the president and his acolytes celebrated Jackson's swaggering nationalism and insurgent populism, opponents condemned his chauvinism, xenophobia, bigotry, and racism. Yes, we could literally substitute Donald Trump for Andrew Jackson. It said, thus, Jackson became the vehicle to propagate dueling images of America's historical legacy and national character. Yet neither portrait bore much resemblance to the real Jackson. Looking at Jackson's actual record can restore some balance to our understanding and some humility to our judgments. Oh, but there is one particular area. There is one particular area where Trump and Jackson are so similar, and that means ignoring the courts. This here is from the Federal Judicial Center. This is what it says. In two notable 19th century cases, Worcester versus Georgia 1832 and Ex parte Merryman 1861, presidents took no action to enforce Supreme Court rulings under circumstances where many argued that they were obligated to do so. In Worcester, the court found in favor of Samuel Worcester, a missionary living among the Cherokee Nation who had been jailed for refusing to take an oath to obey the laws of Georgia. In an opinion written by Chief Justice John Marshall, the court held that the Cherokee constituted an independent political community to which the state of Georgia could not apply its laws. Accordingly, the court declared all Georgia law regulating the Cherokee, including the law under which Worcester was prosecuted and laws providing for the redistribution of Cherokee land, to be unconstitutional, and ordered the Superior Court of Georgia to reverse the conviction. And this is where it is like Trump. The Georgia court refused to follow the Supreme Court's direction. I don't have the vote. Greg, you may know what it is. If so, let me know. But I'm going to try to look it up when Nola speaks. It said, and Georgia's governor vowed to defy the court as well. So here you have the Supreme Court of Georgia and the governor of Georgia both saying, the hell with the highest court of the land and their particular ruling. Back to my iPad. It said President Andrew Jackson, who took no action to force Georgia's compliance, was denounced by those who believed the president was obligated to enforce a Supreme Court ruling against a recalcitrant state. While the story that Jackson remarked, quote, John Marshall has made his decision, now let him enforce it, unquote, is apocryphal, the quotation is believed to have first appeared in an 1864 book by newspaper publisher Horace Greeley. He wrote in a letter to a friend that the court's decision was, quote, stillborn, and that the court was unable to, quote, coerce Georgia to yield to its mandate. So what happened? Cherokees were forced off their land. That is known as the Trail of Tears. Donald Trump, Nola, loves Andrew Jackson. Last time he was there, he hung his portrait in the Oval Office because Andrew Jackson said, the hell with the Supreme Court ruling. I'm going to do what the hell I want to do. And that's how we got the Trail of Tears. And this is what this man is doing when it comes to Abrego Garcia. He does not care about due process. He does not care what the courts say about tariffs. He does not care what the courts say about DEI. He does not care what the courts say about shutting down the Department of Education. In their mind, it's the same as Jackson. This court is stillborn. I can do what the hell I want.
Absolutely. And from the first Trump administration, I don't know if people remember this, but when he invited Native Americans to the White House, there is a picture of Native Americans standing right under the photo of Andrew Jackson. I remember it. There was a lot of consternation about it. There was a lot of pushback, but at the end of the day, he doesn't really care. So here's what I want to talk about regarding everything you just laid out, Roland. So we have to understand the definition of fascism. There are three parts: militarism, nationalism, and the so-called national interest over the individual. So not caring about the individual, and then also anything that is the antithesis to liberal democracy. Now, what are the core tenets of liberal democracy? The core tenets of liberal democracy are separation of church and state, adherence to the judiciary. So the reason why I am lining this up is that you have to understand the foundation of fascism is to not adhere to those foundational elements of a liberal democracy. So all of the things that are part of liberal democracy philosophy, fascism is opposed to. So forget what the judiciary says, especially if it doesn't align with supporting their fascist goals. Forget the fact of separation of powers and between governments, checks and balances. All that goes out of the window. So I really want people to understand that definition and those four pillars of fascism, because I think that when we hear fascism, we have this idea of Adolf Hitler, which isn't wrong per se, but I think it's this really kind of romanticized version of Adolf Hitler and this kind of global takeover and this kind of march towards, taking over Europe and all that stuff. Yes, that can be a part of it. But in 2025, those things look very different. Those things may not look like putting American boots on the ground and trying to overtake Europe in that kind of traditional war making sense. But it does show up in other ways. And tariffs is one of the ways in which Donald Trump is trying to control other states. Okay, so this is all about control to impart your own type of philosophy. So, Roland, you always refer to them as being thugs. I think they're weak thugs. They kind of move like thugs, but they don't really, have that kind of they can't see a thing through. I mean, this week I think we were introduced to the term taco. I mean, like Trump has a tendency of going really hard and trying to be the bully, but at the end of the day, we all know when you stand up to the bully, they tend to deflate.
Yeah, this is the video you were talking about when the Native American code breakers were honored in the White House.
Exactly.
And there are people who are highly critical because as he was recognizing these Native American patriots, they were standing literally in front of a portrait of Andrew Jackson. And there are a lot of Native Americans who were greatly offended by that because of the Trail of Tears. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm almost done with my political science corner here, but what you need to understand is fascism doesn't necessarily, well, I guess we'll see the tanks rolling out in DC in June, I suppose, but all of this is about the individual. Erasing the individual, and it is this nationalism over everything else. So you know how that term all black everything, for them, it's all Trump everything.
The thing that, Reese, again, I need people to understand what is going on is when we talk about what is happening, again, people really need to understand that this is not just willy-nilly. This is not just, they're sort of winging it. No. This is literally what the hard right has always wanted. What people need to understand, and that Supreme Court decision was 5-1, and that's for the people who don't understand that we didn't always have 9 Supreme Court justices. At one point we had 6. So that was a 5-1 Supreme Court ruling in that Worcester versus Georgia case. But the point I'm making here is that this is what people don't seem to understand. Right-wingers in America have despised the civil rights movement. They despise the Reconstruction Amendments. They despise the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. They can't stand the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, and the Fair Housing Act. And the reason they can't stand, and these were things that black people fought for. It was the radical Republicans who did not give a shit about bipartisanship after the Civil War. And they said, if they don't vote for us, we don't give a damn. Run these bills through. That's a lesson for Chuck Schumer today, if you ever get the majority back. The thing here is they despise the Reconstruction Amendments because freedoms in this country have all been born out of 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. Now when you go through, now of course then we had the Jim Crow comes in, Great Compromise of 1877, 92 years of Jim Crow. Then you have this second Reconstruction, and so now you have these three civil rights bills. The Civil Rights Bill, people don't understand, the 1964 Civil Rights Act, you had that racist Judge Smith out of Virginia who thought putting women into the bill was going to doom it, and in fact, it got more votes. And so when you talk about Title IX and the women's movement, really for white women, that was a result of the 64 Civil Rights Act. When you talk about fair housing, that was 1968. When you talk about the Disabled American with Disabilities Act of 1996, that was the Civil Rights Act of 1964. When you talk about same-sex marriage, that's 14th Amendment, Equal Protection Clause. When you see them trying to fight citizenship, that's 14th Amendment as well. And so what this is, the hard right, Federalist Society, what their aim is to completely undermine the federal courts, to undermine Congress in order to say we have supreme power in the king, in the executive, the executive branch. So therefore, we can blow off Congress, blow off the judges, and do what we want because they have hated that federal judges ruled in favor of black people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the unhinged animus that white nationalists have had towards black people is a big reason why this administration is so successful at convincing its base that this is a war on black people. When the reality that this is going to much more drastically impact white people than anybody else. This big, beautiful, ugly ass bill, if you ask me, is going to be very detrimental to red states. This tariff policy is killing manufacturing. It's killing small businesses across the country. What they did with USAID to try to stick it to who they thought was just Africans and Middle Easterners getting aid is killing MAGA farmers. And so this animus and this racism and this white nationalism is only serving to make the people like Elon Musk, who is unceremoniously out of the White House supposedly now, and Jeff Bezos and all of them billionaires richer. So, I think that what we're going to see now is we're going to see some sort of punishment. The chickens are coming home to roost. And what all of this racism has unleashed, and as untethered as it is to any kind of law, any kind of regulation, any kind of societal norm, it's going to be very dangerous. And that's why Donald Trump is just, he's a madman who's unchecked. Now there's, God bless Jerome Powell, that he is unflappable when it comes to what Donald Trump is trying to do. But we're seeing the implications of having an unhinged, erratic, illogical economic policy with this global tariff policy that is, that a court finally said is unconstitutional, but has already been blocked from that attempt to block Donald Trump from implementing this. So I think we're going to see really, really drastic implications of this beyond a bathroom bill, beyond the 0% of athletes who trans athletes who can no longer perform. We're going to see a radical remaking of this society, the economic conditions of this society, the educational conditions, and unfortunately the health conditions of people in this society, all because people wanted to be racist and xenophobic and sexist.
The thing here, and again, there's a reason, Greg, I'm trying to walk through this. Because let's just be honest, you're not going to get these real conversations on mainstream white media because they're focused on the latest stupid, crazy thing that this idiot actually said. We talked about this on yesterday. The reason, and this is for all of the simple Simon black people who only think that, it's about Trump, I'm having money in my pockets, not understanding the larger game. Understanding that it was a charade for him to pardon Larry Hoover, knowing full well he will never get out of prison because of what's happening in Illinois. And so now you got black folks, oh man, Trump pardoned Larry Hoover, Trump pardoned NBA YoungBoy on his gun charges, and not realizing that they don't give a damn about folk voting because this is why. Yesterday, we talked about how the Trump Department of Justice is suing North Carolina. This is the headline on Fox News' website. DOJ sues North Carolina over voter rolls. Here's the key. The Department of Justice sued the state of North Carolina and the North Carolina State Board of Elections on Tuesday for allegedly failing to maintain an accurate voter list. They claim that they are violating the 2002 Help America Vote Act. Let's be real clear. Republicans never gave a damn about the Help America Vote Act. And what people need to understand is, because you might be asking, well, Roland, I don't understand what the big deal is with North Carolina. Here's why. Because North Carolina is on its way to becoming Georgia. North Carolina elected, although Donald Trump won North Carolina in the presidential race, North Carolina elected a Democratic governor, a Democratic lieutenant governor, a Democrat attorney general, a Democrat in the Secretary of State, which is why the Republican North Carolina legislature changed the laws and they took all of the power of the State Board of Elections away from the governor, away from the Secretary of State, and gave it to the state auditor because he's Republican. Now, for the folks at home who are going, well, I still don't understand, it's because there's a guy named Tom Tillis who's on the ballot next year. Who is Tom Tillis? He's the architect of the voter suppression laws that North Carolina put in place after Obama won North Carolina in 2008 by 14,100 votes. He's up for re-election next year. They are scared to death that he is going to lose re-election. So they're scared that Ossoff will get reelected in Georgia and that they'll win North Carolina. They could have won North Carolina last time if Cam Cunningham had not been cheating and doing it during the campaign and lost by 3 points and got busted for it, but that's neither here nor there. They know what's going on. North Carolina in the Black Belt in East North Carolina, if Democrats had any sense whatsoever, they'll be pumping massive amounts of resources to turn black people out. You could actually flip that state. So I need people who are not paying attention to understand that the Trump DOJ is trying to weaponize the Help America Vote Act because they want to wipe hundreds of thousands of people off the voting rolls in North Carolina, in Georgia, and in other places to make it easier for them to win. That is why they are doing this. Greg, you're on mute.
Okay, thank you, Roland. And one day, maybe one day soon, maybe not, but one day for sure, the true story of the election of 2024 will come out, and we'll see how voter manipulation, voter suppression, and other tactics were used in addition to voter suppression and disinformation to deliver the vote at the top of the ticket. You've been reporting on this for a very long time, Roland. I'm talking specifically about North Carolina. You know, you've covered it with a laser focus, and we know that Russell Vogt, the ideologically misshapen clown who's the quarterback of Project 2025 and the really intellectual architect, along with Kevin Roberts, of a great deal of what the clown has been signing, including that executive order that spoke to this question of quote unquote voter integrity. And for those who have the memory beyond the memory of a fruit fly, like too many people in this society, as you say, watching commercial news, entertainment, mass media, you'll remember that the chapter in Project 2025 on voter voting rights, which is really a voter suppression chapter, was written by Hans von Spakovsky, one of the chief architects of voter suppression in the first Trump administration. We understand that you're absolutely right. They are desperate. This should encourage everyone, however, because in their desperation, what they are showing is they don't have another hand to play. Trump today, Rolling Stone reported that he admits misleading Supreme Court about the South Sudan deportations. Pam Bondi is a human joke at the Department of Justice. No one takes her seriously who's a reasonable human being. And in doing this, taking these kind of actions, this kind of Orwellian up is down, left is right, day is night, actions like we're trying to protect the vote by trying to put people off the voter rolls in North Carolina, they are energizing the opposition. We saw what happened at Harvard today. The president of Harvard, Alan Graber, got a standing ovation of minutes from students and everyone else. I wish it could have been in time to save Claudia Gay from the hit squad that took her out, but simply people are unifying in opposition. I just rushed back from the National Organization of Black County Officials, a meeting in Birmingham. By the way, Alicia Simmons said hello. You know, your friend from Tarrant County, of course, who you covered extensively here for staring down that racist white county commissioner, and she was in battle with him. But the talk of the conference, one of the things they were talking about is how do we come together to resist at the local level? You've been saying this forever. All politics is local. This is very much the politics of distraction. In North Carolina, as Reverend Barber has been saying for over a decade, since they started Moral Mondays down there on the steps of the Raleigh State Legislature, all we have to do is organize. As Gary Chambers has said on these airwaves to you in conversation over and over again in Louisiana, the South is not red. The South is unorganized. And so we just don't get distracted. If we do the work, all of this theater will amount to nothing, and they will indeed have their political backs broken by the organized people. And that's why, again, why this channel is so important, because you're bringing this to light, you're putting it in people's faces, and that allows us to have a reasoned, thinking conversation about it that will lead to action.
You know, it is absolutely imperative, Reese, that people really understands why we have to connect the dots. Because what they're trying to do, they're trying to play black people small. They're trying to say, oh yeah, we're gonna put a couple of coins in your pocket. But while you think that we're doing that, and we're actually not, we're gonna completely eradicate this entire infrastructure over here. Mm-hmm. And see, what you then have is, then you got these Simple Simon Negroes who love talking about the black boule, the black boule, the black boule, oh, the black boule, the black boule, the black boule. They love talking about that, and they have no idea what the hell they're talking about. They literally have no idea. Oh, and I know those same Simple Simon Negroes gonna be like, well, she just wait, you know, because, you know, he in the boule. Am I in Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated? Absolutely. Yep. Am I in Prince Hall Masons? Yes. Am I in Sigma Pi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, the boule? Absolutely. Are there other male organizations? Absolutely. But you got to be real stupid. You got to be real stupid to label all black organizations the black boule, because how in the hell do you think you actually got anything? See, I love these people who proclaim themselves to be super radicals. I love these super radicals who yap on YouTube, who talk about being revolutionaries, and then want to say you're a shield and you're a sellout and all you care about voting for Democrats, when, Reese, it's very simple. What is staring us in the face is Republican, Democrat. Matter of fact, this is what's staring us in the face. William Monroe Trotter and Texas fascists. So let's see here. Okay, I may not agree with everything of William Monroe Trotter, but I damn sure don't agree with any of these fools over here. So why would I ever put them on the same level? And then when people say, well, you know, you just sitting up here, you trying to make us vote Democrat. No, I'm actually trying to get you what reality is and what is staring us in the face. somebody is going to win. Now, if somebody can actually show me how a third-party candidate has a viable path to winning 270 electoral college votes, I'll happily listen to that. Last I checked, I don't think Jill Stein got one electoral college vote, even in New Hampshire or even in Nebraska, where they do it by congressional district. So when I am talking about how we should vote and who we should vote for, I'm looking at fundamental policies, and it doesn't mean that, this side over here is somehow all perfect. Let me remind people, Reese, that one of the reasons why the Affordable Care Act was not a popular bill, it was not because more than a majority of Americans hated the Affordable Care Act. The reason more than a majority of people did not support the Affordable Care Act, because there was a significant number of progressives who felt the Affordable Care Act did not go far enough. They wanted the single-payer option. And so when people were talking about the Affordable Care Act, see, the Affordable Care Act is not popular. No, you have to disaggregate. You got to remove the people who wanted to go further than what it did from the people who were opposed to it. If you actually separated that, what you would have discovered is that more people were in favor of the Affordable Care Act than the people who were actually against it. And so when I listen to these folk who talk a good game, who are very theoretical in their approach, when the rest of us are literal in our approach because we're looking at it face to face. I got a Republican attorney general and I've got a Democrat attorney general. And so let's see, who am I more likely to get what I'm looking for? And that Democrat attorney general may not be as progressive. It may not be a Larry Krasner, may not be an Amherst Ayala. It may not be a Marilyn Mosby, may not be anyone like that. But guess what? I can lean on that person more than I can this person who's going to ignore me. That's called real life politics. What we are talking about here is what we call real shit. What we're talking about here is what is happening in real life. These folks over here who are right here with the Texas fascists, they're like, damn, matter of fact, if y'all think somebody watching, y'all sitting here saying, see, there you go, Rowland, you just trying to scare us. I'm glad I show, God, thank you for giving me that reminder. Yesterday, as I was on Twitter, looking at looking at some different feeds, the Texas Tribune posted an article talking about how Republicans in the Texas legislature are changing the law. This is what they said right here. Texas property owners can use nearly as much water under their land as they want without facing liability to surrounding landowners whose wells might be depleted as a result. That's unlikely to change even as the state's water supply approaches a crisis. Now, that was one particular tweet that I saw, but the one that captured my attention was the one that I was really, really interested in, and it dealt with the whole issue of how in Texas they were changing the laws that would make it easier for these companies to pollute the water, and then they would be granting them immunity from being sued as a result of that. So if we're talking about, here's the tweet right here. The Texas legislature has given oil and gas companies legal cover to sell wastewater to be treated and released into the state's rivers, lakes, and streams. House Bill 49 protects landowners and companies from liability should consequences arise after they sell or treat the liquid. Now, if I had to hold up one party over the other, the reality is, Reese, one party actually is trying to make sure that our water is not polluted with wastewater and going into public streams. But another party, the Republican Party, is like, yo, we're going to let companies do whatever the hell they want to do, and then we're going to give them immunity to say you can't sue them. So for all of these so-called radicals, so-called revolutionaries, the people who say, oh, man, you shilling for the Democrats, please tell me what your ass going to do when it comes to clean water.
Not a damn thing. That's what they're gonna do, so they can shut the fuck up. Okay, people call me Boule. I take it as a compliment. I'm not a part of any organization, but what you're saying is I'm successful. Thank you. I'm very happy to be successful. I work very hard to be here. And for me to be a so-called Democratic shield, there's people still who want to throw up every time they see me because I was on their ass 5 years ago now. I had a whole ass baby and people still mad about some shit I said in 2019. But I wear that as a badge of honor as well. The reality is, if you have more smoke for anything that's said on this show to try to connect the dots and educate people about the policies, the implications of those policies, and 10 steps down the line, because I promise you what we're seeing here today in this administration is the things that we warned about time and time and time again on this show, from years back up until now. What we've seen with U.S. citizens being arrested and under ICE holds was what we warned about when Texas, Louisiana, and Florida and Georgia were passing laws empowering state police to arrest people under the suspicion of being illegal here illegally. And so if you have more smoke for anything you've heard on this show than you do for the fact that this administration canceled consent decrees that arose out of the protest of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, if you have more smoke for what you hear on this show than for the fact that Elon Musk is putting data centers that are polluting the air and the environment in Memphis, if you have more smoke for us and what you hear on this show, which is factual information, than what this administration is doing, fuck you, go to hell, kiss my black ass. How about that? And anybody in the comments and anybody's watching who has a problem with the fact that I said any kind of expletives, an extra double fuck you.
Oh my.
Nola, you now have to follow that.
Oh Lord, the people on Blue Sky gonna go crazy. All the things that Reese said, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. I was talking to my best friend the other night, and she was like, "Where the alphabet crew at? The FBAs, the ABCs, DOSs, like what? Where they at? Talking about everything that's been reversed, the attacks, the blatant attacks on Black folks, especially Black women. Let's talk about our unemployment rates that's going, high. Like, I'm glad that you brought up the issue around water, because the first thing that I thought about was the environmental rollbacks, especially in a part of the world where I'm from. There's been a combination over the years between oil spills and these different regulatory fights over, where people fish and where they actually make their living. One of the things I would fight with some of my cousins who actually kind of subsisted on, some of those, fishing. They made their living, fishing. Like, why would you support a party and a person who doesn't care about environmental protections, who doesn't care about regulation? It makes no sense. Right. And so what's really interesting about this argument is it is very clear, Roland, like you rolled out, there's a party that cares about people and there's a party who does not care about people. It really is that simple. It really is that simple.
Well, no, hold on. No. I want to rephrase that. That there are a lot of members of a party that care about people. But there are some Democrats that don't care about people, and those are the people that should be targeted. And so again, this is the reason.
You always interrupt me.
No, I'm interrupting you because I believe the distinction is important because it cannot be blindly in terms of party. There are some people with a D in front of their name who need to be defeated. And so
I don't agree with that. I don't disagree with that.
So, but I believe it's important for us to make the distinction so people understand that we're not offering a blanket immunity or cover for anybody with a D. We're saying that if you have a D in front of your name, we expect you to do some things on behalf of the people and not corporate interests. Go right ahead.
Now that I am able to finish my thought, thank you very much.
Yes, after you have gone to a linguistic chiropractor and you've now had an adjustment.
Oh, Lord. The policies speak very clearly that are for the people, which is my point about policies, not necessarily specific people. The policies speak very clearly about being for the people, which is my point, Roland Sebastian Martin. And yes, you have to hold people accountable, but you have to look at the policies. You have to look at the policies that don't care about what you got going on in your everyday life. And let's go back to the definition of fascism. It isn't about the individual.
Right.
They don't care about your real life, right? So it's about those harmful policies. And I think it's very clear which group cares more about people and which group does not.
And sometimes, and again, as a chiropractor, sometimes you got to crack that back in order to create an alignment. I shall go to a break. When we come back, more on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. You can contribute via Cash App using the Stripe QR code. You can use this for credit cards as well. And of course, you want to send your check and money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And yes, Nola, my middle name is Sebastian, named by my daddy, and it's a damn good name. I'll be back.
This week on the other side of change.
Mass incarceration, Trump administration is doubling down on criminalization, and how it is profitable.
And there's something really, really perverse about saying that we need to put people in cages in order for other people to have jobs. Like, that is not how our economy should be built.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
name is Mark Curry, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Deep into it, like pasteurized milk without the 2%. We getting deep. You want to turn that shit off? We're doing an interview, motherfucker.
All right, the idiots at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, just how dumb they are, okay? So in their desperation to attack Harvard, but also their desperation to keep brown people out of the country, they pause new student visa interviews while they consider expanding social media vetting. So basically what this is Marco Rubio, Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, they want to literally throw people out of the country who utter anything critical of the United States. Do y'all remember when Marco Rubio was testifying before the Senate, and he proudly, no, it was before the House, and it was a member who was speaking, and now check this out. Here's a video where this is the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, okay, in a country where the First Amendment is first, is saying, you criticize Israel and you a student visa, you can't stay here. Listen to this.
Under President Trump, the United States will stand with the Jewish people. We have implemented a vigorous new visa policy that will prevent foreign nationals from coming to the United States to foment hatred against our Jewish community. We are holding international organizations and nations accountable for rhetoric against Israel that resurfaces in the manifesto of monsters like Iran and Sarah's killer. But we do see an eventual light at the end of this long tunnel of suffering. One can imagine a Middle East in which the Abraham Accords eventually reign. So thank you for the opportunity to address you.
Folks, first and foremost, let me be real clear. He's full of shit because it's not about fomenting hatred. What he's actually doing is targeting individuals, even if you write an op-ed that's critical. Listen to this.
When you come to the United States as a visitor, which is what a visa is, which is how this individual entered this country, as on a visitor's visa, okay, you are here as a visitor. We can deny you that visa. We can deny you that if you tell us when you apply, hi, I'm trying to get into the United States on a student visa. I am a big supporter of Hamas, a murderous, barbaric group that kidnaps children, that rapes teenage girls, that takes hostages, that allows them to die in captivity, that returns more bodies than live hostages. If you tell us that you are in favor of a group like this, and if you tell us when you apply for your visa, and by the way, I intend to come to your country as a student and rile up all kinds of anti-Jewish student, anti-Semitic activities, I intend to shut down your universities. If you told us all these things when you applied for a visa, we would deny your visa. I hope we would. If you actually end up doing that, once you're in this country on such a visa, we will revoke it. And if you end up having a green card, not citizenship, but a green card as a result of that visa while you're here in those activities, we're going to kick.
So, again, one of the people they went after, she wrote an op-ed. That's how it was. Now, officially, the focus is on Chinese nationals, particularly those in tech fields or with ties to the Chinese Communist Party. But that's not what this is all about. We know what it's all about. The game that they're playing. So joining us right now, Nana Gyamfi, Executive Director of the Black Alliance for Just Immigration. Glad to have you on the show. Again, Nana, this is how, what these people, they literally are calling through everything. And if you uttered anything negative about Trump, about MAGA, about the Republicans, this is not about Israel. This is not about Hamas. Their whole deal is, I mean, we have people posting how they are going through cell phones at customs and looking through text messages and all of this to look for any critical comments about Republicans, Trump, or MAGA.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you so very much for having me on. And thank you for connecting all of these dots. This has nothing to do with Israel. when you look at who they target, like the big pieces that we see are like students at Harvard, students at these Ivy Leagues. But when he talked initially about 300 visas that had been revoked, those people were not all people who were talking about Israel. You had South Sudanese students who they revoked their visas across this country because they got into dispute with South Sudan, because South Sudan was like, if you're going to deport people, please at least let them be South Sudanese. You're just taking every Negro you can find and deporting them in South Sudan, whether it's their country or not. And we're not going for that. And they just took the visas away from South Sudanese folks. We have students that are here in the San Diego area near where I am in Los Angeles. We got called by 2 students. It ended up being 112 students from Haiti. They had nothing to do with protests. They had nothing to do with Israel or Palestine. This is just targeting vulnerable people because they know that they have their visas in their hands, and expanding their surveillance, their spy machine, looking specifically at social media. And we know that there's policies and executive orders relating to that, to make sure that they can squash dissent. And that's all this is. And if this is allowed to stand, particularly as it pertains to students, it's going to make the surveillance that I know you remember of Black students on campus pushing back and fighting in support of Black lives look like a walk in the park, look like pleasantries, because they're going to be coming after everyone. They practice on one group, but it's meant for us all, and particularly Black students.
And so again, we have to be extremely vigilant. And so you hear Rubio saying, supporting Hamas and fomenting dissent against Jewish Americans and against Israel. But as you said, that's not what's happening with the Sudanese?
That's not what's happening with the Sudanese. That's what's happening with all of these people whose visa interviews have been paused. Imagine what it takes, and you know this, Roland, how hard it is as an African student, as a Caribbean student, to even get to the point that you are even given an interview. It's not like you apply and then the next school year, that's what happens. No, people are waiting years. When you get here, you have to save up the funds because you're not going to get grants. You can't get scholarships. You can't get financial aid. You have to pay for this on your own. And most folks who are applying are working class. It's not, coming to America where they're the Prince of Zamuda or whatever. They're just regular working class folks coming here trying to get this education. And now they're saying they're pausing all interviews across the world, the United States, so that they can check out people's social media posts before they decide whether they're going to grant you an interview or not. Folks should not be bamboozled. Not only is this a violation of those students' rights, but this is the practice that they're going to start using on folks here. It'll begin with students and whether or not they're going to give them financial aid, whether or not they're, what kind of federal support are you going to get? Are you going to get a Pell Grant? Suddenly your social media handles are going to be a part of the application for that process. And then we know that it's going to start extending from there until it just becomes a mandate that in order to get a job, in order to go to school, in order to get benefits, that you've got to turn over and let Big Brother know whether the king is being besmirched in any of the posts or any of the chats, any of the emails that you may be sending, which is your First Amendment right to do, even as an international student, as a visitor, in any capacity, regardless of citizenship in this country.
Questions from the panel. Nola, you're first.
Nana, thank you so much for saying everything that you said and the work that you do. So I think about this from the perspective of earlier in the show, Roland had mentioned different types of bills that were kind of included within the civil rights package. And one of those things, I've done a lot of research on the Immigration Nationality Act, especially the 1965 part, where the quotas were lifted and more people were able to come to the country, quote unquote, if you were qualified, basically if you had the money to come. And so over time, first it started with an explosion of Asian, different folks from Asian regions, and then African countries, and then Latin American countries. And so I think a lot of what we are seeing is also a push back to that, right? Mm-hmm. To opening up the so-called American dream to Black and brown folks, because that wasn't the initial intention of the first draft, the first and second draft of the Immigration Nationality Act, right? So as we are seeing all of these pushbacks against everything that came out of the civil rights package, this is also included, but it's not talked about as much. And then also, we saw this pop up in the first Trump administration, especially with the second travel ban. So my question is, how are people feeling in the diaspora? Do people even still want to come here when Trump 1 and Trump 2 so blatantly is trying to roll back all of the progress that was made through that whole package of the civil rights during the civil rights times and opening it up to everyone?
So, I mean, people still want to come to the United States. They're very concerned about coming to the United States, right? And so, you have a couple of things that are happening that are causing, in particular, Black international students to come here. One of the things is that because of the way that the United States has engaged in our countries, right, our home countries, and the rest of the West, we don't have those universities. We don't have those medical schools. So a third of the Black people that are in this country are in the field of the medical field, and so many, for example, Haitians. But Haiti, because of U.S. foreign policy with respect to Haiti, because of France's actions with respect to Haiti, Canada, etc., it doesn't have the medical schools if you want to go to medical school for you to do that in Haiti. So yes, people are looking particularly at those countries that have done so much damage to our home countries to say, look, we're going to go, you're right, where our profits are going that you're taking from us. We're going to go where our people have gone that you stole from us. We're going to go and reconnect and, build those relationships there. And so people want to do it, but they're very clear about the fact that you're Black people, right? We're Black. We're not some other kind of thing just because of our nationality. And it's always been different for us. It's never been the same to be even a Black Brit coming into this country as it is a white Brit coming into this country. It's always been different. So we have kind of that muscle already, but certainly I think it's important for folks to understand exactly what you said in terms of the connection with civil rights and immigrant rights, because immigrant rights is in fact a racial justice issue that squarely deals with Blackness and migration. And to the degree that we don't see those connections, we're going to end up with a whole bunch of African Americans in a Black site in El Salvador, confused about what has happened to them, right? As well as having a whole bunch of Black immigrants in this country confused about what happened to the land of the free and the home of the brave. We've got to make those connections, connect those dots. So I'm so pleased to be able to be here today to really have that conversation.
Reese.
And your lipstick is fine. Your lipstick is gorgeous.
Thank you.
Stop trying to add stuff. Go on here, Reese. Ask your question.
It's always good to be with you on this program because, to my point earlier, our conversations with you on this program have been warning about the connection, to your point, between racial justice issues and immigration justice issues. I want to cover a little bit more about the South Sudanese part. Because I still don't know if it's really clicking with people. And I think that this administration is very strategic and unfortunately smart in how they've tried to use immigrants as a pretext to be able to really attack freedom of speech and to increase surveillance on people. There's reporting today about how they've been basically farming all of this data from migrant children that they've been, DNA that they've been collecting. To the last point you made about how sooner rather than later, we'll probably see Black people who are American-born U.S. citizen Black people in Black sites. Can you just talk a little bit more about what you've seen in terms of kind of the tea leaves you've seen and the policy that you've seen with this administration talking about wanting to deport homegrown people, about their sloppiness and who they've targeted in terms of people who don't have criminal records, but who've been in the crosshairs of different law enforcement actions that have landed them in trouble with immigration? Because I feel like people are a little bit complacent because they hear immigrant and they think, well, I'm a U.S. citizen. But we've seen a sloppiness with this administration where if you don't have due process, you can be rounded up as these ICE agents are walking around in military gear in Tallahassee now, and Martha's Vineyard, rounded up and find yourself in South Sudan. So if you can linger a little bit more on that point about how these things are a lot closer to happening, if they aren't already happening, than people might suspect.
So, as you were saying that, I was thinking about how we just celebrated the 100 years of Malcolm X, Brother Malcolm. And one of the things that he teaches us, he said, you couldn't possibly be an American, speaking to African Americans, because if you were an American, they wouldn't have to keep passing this stuff. You would already have all these rights in the Constitution, right? And he wasn't saying you're not American in the sense that you haven't done what needs to be done to be American. He was saying this country will always see you as foreign. And it's a painful reality, but it is a reality, right? As, the original alien is the kidnapped African brought to this country in chains, right? And, all of the laws that start with immigration that are limiting immigration in this country all begin with Black people. We're told to begin with Southeast Asians. That is not correct. They begin with free Haitians trying to get into this country and being told at that time, no, you can't come in. And so this thing about Blackness and otherness is one that we live with every single day, again, regardless of our citizenship. And the fact that people are African American, when you have folks that are stopping people and are saying, we don't care about how you sound, right? Because Nsé Ufot, who we know, who was at one point the ED of New Georgia Project, came to this country when she was 12. And you can't tell that by hearing her talk. And there's so many other folks, right, that are in similar situations. And so they're saying they don't know from how you talk, so they're going to grab you and ask questions later. They are now saying that they mistakenly, and we know that's a lie, but let's put that to the side, mistakenly took Kilmar Abrego Garcia to El Salvador, that he should not be there. And yet he is still there. And so the fact that you should not be there is not enough for you to be brought back to this country once they decide that they're sending you away. And they are making plans. They're in talks with Djibouti. They were in talks with Libya. They were in talks with Rwanda. Roland, we got to talk to some of these African leaders because they're losing their minds too. They're in talks with these Central and South American countries, right? To see where can we pay you to hold folks? And we will be sitting right next to each other, side by side, foreign-born Black people like me who are the children of foreign Black people, and Black people who are African-American once these folks do what they do if we don't stop them.
Greg.
Thank you, Roland, and thank you, Sister Nana, for your work. And I'm glad you brought that last point up. We know that the Black Star scared the hell out of Eisenhower and Kennedy and Nixon, that Kwame Nkrumah coming here and raising at the United Nations the question of Pan-Africanism and African solidarity is one of the reasons that Africans in the United States were able to make the advances that we were able to make. And that really leads me to the question I have for you. Even as we see Donald Trump and his white racist friends in their death bleed, we know that white supremacy is dying, and we know that this is going to be a painful death. The painful death. What do you see on the horizon in terms of a post-American global order? What are some of the alternatives to coming to this criminal enterprise for students? We saw what happened today at Harvard, as I mentioned earlier, the ovation for the president of Harvard standing in solidarity. I think there are going to be some unintended consequences in terms of global solidarity movements. Hopefully that will reawaken Pan-Africanism among Africans here in the United States and internationally. We know Paul Kagame is on the take. He's been on the take for quite some time in Rwanda, so we would look to nothing for him, even as his rhetoric of Pan-Africanism should poison his mouth for him trying to even gesture in that direction, given what he's done and what he will do. What do you think of the possibilities of a post-American global order? And how should we be thinking about solidarity movements globally as African people to help us in this moment?
So thank you for that. I mean, one of the things that we talk about is we know that the system as we know it is falling. And that certainly in that process, I'm not cheering it on. I'm never going to cheer on the building falling on people because there's people that are in it, right?
Absolutely.
But it's happening, whether we're cheering, not cheering. Obviously, the system as we have it now is not one that I would set up. I think that there's a lot that needs to be done and there's a dismantling that needs to happen. I wish we could do it in a more orderly manner, but it's just the nature of what we're dealing with. It's going to happen in a manner that's not orderly. What are we building for the other side, right? I mean, earlier you all were talking about Palestine, and you think about Palestine, the Congo, Cameroon, Sudan, all of these countries in which wars are happening, and people are building for the other side. People know that some people are going to survive, and what's on the other side of this. And I think even as we talk about this international student issue, particularly as it pertains to Black students, that is part of the building for the other side. Kwame Nkrumah went to Lincoln University.
That's right.
And we know if we look at HBCUs, if we look at community colleges, we look at our fraternities and sororities, that it is not just African Americans in this space, right?
That's right.
That in fact, because international students, Black international students are paying fees in here, that's part of how we survive to the other side. If he snatches this money from community colleges as they snatch money from HBCUs, the capacity to have Black international students is what's going to keep these colleges moving and keep our people still able to hold on till we get to the other side, right? And so that's important. And when we have people coming from the United States, African Americans from various HBCUs that have programs, sending folks to Ghana, letting people learn in Cape Town and Johannesburg, having people go to Kenya, sending people to the University of West Indies. That's how we build that global solidarity, Black solidarity that we're going to need, because on the other side, it is absolutely not going to be about alphabet soup. And it's absolutely not going to be about, I'm from Ghana, I'm from Nigeria, I'm from here, I'm from there. We're not going to erase where we come from, obviously, in our cultures, but we're going to have an understanding that it is with us working together and building together the world that only we, as the progenitors of the entire world population, understand needs to be, right? And so this thing with the international students is not just a nothing. It's a lot, because it's a way in the formidable years of people's lives, of Black people's lives, for us to be connected to each other, for us to learn, for us to love on each other, for us to be with each other, that they're trying to destroy here, because they know that 20% of Black people in this country are either foreign-born or children of foreign-born people. And they know that a lot of those people, like my parents, my father came in 1965 to get his PhD in civil engineering at Berkeley. And they know that that's going to produce a Nana and all my siblings who are going to join this liberation fight for Black people. And they know that. And so we have to make this an important part of what we're talking about.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dan, Nana, we appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Keep up the fight.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right, folks, going to break. We come back. We're going to talk about the continuing boycott against Target. We got some other stuff we got to cover. Y'all know how we going to do this thing. We're going to keep bringing the funk as we always do. And let's see what crazy thing Nola got to say next.
This week at the Black Table, we discuss a place, an idea, a dream, and a reality that everybody on the planet should know about. A place called Mound Bayou.
What about Black people creating their own country, not from the outside in, but from the inside out?
That's next on the Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
This is Tamala Mann.
And this is David Mann. And you're watching Roland Martin
Unfiltered.
Akron, Ohio, the man who ran over and drugged a man in the gas station parking lot is out on bond. 41-year-old Thomas Felber is charged with one count of felonious assault for running over an unnamed 50-year-old person. The gruesome short video is circulating on social media. We want to warn y'all that it's no audio, but it's quite disturbing. Officers who responded to the scene say Felber first assaulted the victim before getting into his vehicle, striking the man and dragging him through a nearby parking lot. The victim was transported to a local hospital where he remains in critical condition. Felber was arraigned on Tuesday morning. He is currently out on a $50,000 bond. His case now goes before a grand jury for possible indictment. Yo, that's crazy. But you got some people who are crazy like that. Harvard University finally giving up some ownership of some of the earliest known photographs of enslaved people of African descent. These images feature a man named Renti and his daughter Delia, who were photographed in 1850 without their consent. A Harvard scientist commissioned these photographs to promote racist theories. After a 15-year fight led by Tamara Lanier, who traced her lineage back to Renti, Harvard has agreed to return these particular photos to the International African American Museum in Charleston, South Carolina, where Renti and Delia were enslaved. Lanier accused Harvard of exploiting her ancestors' images for profit and prestige. Now, for the first time, descendants will gain control over these historic images. I mean, this stuff is really important, Greg, because what we're seeing with the National Museum of African American History and Culture, the International Museum in Charleston, and other smaller museums around the country, there's a massive amount of Black history that is in places we know nothing about. And frankly, this to me is akin to Eastern European Jews reclaiming stolen artifacts during Nazi Germany's reign.
Yeah, I think it's a accurate comparison you're making there, Roland. Harvard has never been a complete friend to African people. The Harvard Law School, in the last couple of generations, if memory serves correctly, finally abandoned their coat of arms, their shield, which kind of has a racist overtone. You know, John Harvard plantations. Well, if you read Craig Stephen Wilder's book, Ebony and Ivy, he talks about the racist origins of many of the Ivy League schools. So, yeah, it's important. And you make that comparison. I think it's an apt one. The whole question of repatriation has really seized the global African imagination. It's good that you had Nana on just before this, because you're seeing this demand all over. You're seeing it in Nigeria and Benin for the return of artifacts and the return of the Benin bronzes. The British Museum said, we're not giving them up or whatever. But in Senegal, you're seeing things being returned to Senegal from France. Not enough, but some. And here in the United States, Lonnie Bunch, the Secretary of the Smithsonian, overseeing the transfer of pieces back to Nigeria. And then Nigeria saying, for the time being, they can remain on loan in the United States. You're seeing this, and these photographs, which are going to Charleston, and I haven't been yet. I don't know if any of the three of you have been.
I haven't been.
Okay, very good. And I'm just raising it because, you know, Jim Clyburn worked for many years on that. So many people in South Carolina. That museum in Charleston is going to be important. It's part of our growing network of museums around the country dedicated to telling the story of African people globally, not just here in the United States. And it really is finally a fight about memory. That's what this fight over the Smithsonian is about. That in part, although the big part too was getting the information out of the Copyright Office and other things out of the Library of Congress. But for the racists, getting Carla Hayden out of that seat, which I think should not be a done deal. They should definitely go and dispute that. That's the Library of Congress, not the Library of the Presidency. But it really is about attempting to continue to narrate us as figments of the white imagination. We're pushing back, and we're seeing victories like the one that you just narrated today.
Well, we also are seeing, we saw what took place, the lawsuits and the settlements recently when it comes to Henrietta Lacks and her sales in the advancement. And so again, this is a nation that has greatly profited from the free labor and the exploitation of people of African descent. And guess what? We want our shit back.
Period. And listen, the thing about it is, it's unfortunate that they have to be dragged kicking and screaming. These motherfuckers are shameless. You should be trying to make amends and repair the damage that they did. Harvard, was getting a lot of money from charging licensing fees for the image of Rennie, while, you know, also preventing his family, his descendants from actually owning the image that's rightfully theirs. And so I'm glad that it's going to be put to more respectful and collaborative use with Rennie's family. I think that it shows the fact that it was such a battle, the lack of humanity people have and respect people have for the humanity of our enslaved ancestors, and thinking that, you know, they still have some sort of ownership over the stories and the lives of those people that came under horrendous conditions. And so I always said Black people need to get more litigious. I always said that, and I'm happy to see that, you know, his family did not back down, and that finally some sort of justice was served, and now it can be put to use in a way that honors him and in a way that honors his family.
I say this all the time. I love that particular scene, Nola, from Malcolm X, when the cop goes, "Okay, break it up. You got what you wanted." "No, I'm not satisfied."
Yeah, 1000%. And, you know, this is, you know, I want to point out, this is global theft. One of the things that I do, whatever country I'm in, the first thing that I do is go to a museum. And I cannot step into a museum without wondering, is this in partnership or is this a theft, right? In addition to all of the stuff that has been stolen from many of our ancestors here on this show, I also want to go even farther back. One of the things that I cannot stand to see in Italy of Egyptian wares that they have in Italy. And I can't help but to wonder, is this theft or is this in partnership? So when I saw that we were going to talk about this specifically with Harvard, I've seen it. You know, I've seen other things there that are on display, from Native Americans to our heritage. And again, is it theft or is it in partnership? And often it is theft. So I am happy that this happened. And then, you know, also Harvard, you know, Harvard's in the news right now in a way where, you know, Reese did this really great with the receipts about how it's understandable that Harvard isn't this sympathetic kind of institution that you want to ally with. But right now, what it's standing up for is an important thing. So was it in Harvard's best interest to settle this? Probably. It's not a good look, right? And especially after they put the kibosh on the Descendant of Slaves program that was also at Harvard University. So, you know, they're in a momentum right now of positive media attention. So I don't know if that's the reason why they did this. Perhaps it was just coincidence. As a security person, I don't know if I believe in coincidence. I'm just happy that they did it. And I also hope that people follow suit around the world, because it's not just a US problem. The amount of that cultural theft around the world, typically when it comes to Black and brown civilizations, is out of control. So I hope this sets some sort of precedent to make sure that, you know, the acknowledgement that, hey, we have this, we may not have this, you know, through the most legal channels, but we want to acknowledge that we have this, and how can we honor where it came from? I think this is an important cultural conversation, especially, you know, folks like me, where I love art. I genuinely love art. And it's hard to step into some of these places knowing that so much of culture and history been illegally.
Let you break up? Illegally?
I break up. Anyway, I'm done.
What? I was like, you just stopped. I said, I agreed. Like, I can't. Okay, so I can't agree.
I don't trust it.
I can't agree with the statement.
I'm done. I don't trust it. I don't trust it.
What you mean you don't trust it? I was saying,
Something else is coming. Something else is coming.
Something else wasn't coming. That was trying to tell you to hurry your ass up.
Exactly.
I didn't stop you. That is called. So let me explain to you. Let me tell y'all something. Nola gonna send me a text talking about I can't wait till I get my own show. See, you gonna learn. See, Nola, you gonna learn when you get your own show. When somebody going too damn long. I'm trying to tell you, when you get your own damn show, and when somebody going too long, and you ain't trying to cut them off, you're gonna be like, mm-hmm. And then if they ass keep going, you're gonna be like, mm-hmm. Then if they keep going, you gonna be like, gotcha. See, it's like a thing. See, Reese, no. See, Reese, you got your own radio show. You know, it's like a cue you give. You like, mm-hmm. And it's like,
does he ever interrupt you?
And then with somebody, yes, like, okay. And then like,
yes, but shout out to, because Nola, you have a new show, so go ahead,
Thank
Nola,
you,
plug your
Reese.
show.
Thank you.
Okay. You got a new show. What's your show?
My show is called Nightcap through the Persist Network. Thank you very much.
The what? What's that? No, seriously, explain to people what it is. So, what is it? Video? Is it audio? And where is it?
It's on Instagram Live through the Persist Network. We are a group of women. We were formerly Women for Harris, and then we turned into the Persist Network. And we do different things. We do rapid response, we do local advocacy, and then we also have a media wing. And so the first two shows that came out of Persist is my show, Nightcap, and Katie Fang's show called Wait a Damn Minute.
Okay, we ain't talking about Katie Fang. We asking you what time? No, stop adding extra. I said explain your show. Stop adding extra shit. What time is your show, and where can somebody watch your show?
This man don't give me a moment's rest. As I was about to say, you can find my show on a Persist Network on Instagram Live Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you. Thank you, Reese. And Reese is going to be on next week.
Okay. Somebody in the chat said Reese don't play on her show though. See, Reese be like,
no, she don't.
Reese be like, yeah, it's going too damn long. Wrap this shit up. Okay, just letting y'all know. So yeah, you gonna know. Matter of fact, so since you got a new show, Nola, when you gonna invite a brother on your show?
I just said. So we're still debating if we're gonna have men.
So let me check how many people on your show last week.
Oh.
I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, I kind of got a few followers. I'm just saying, But hey, that's good. I mean, it's all ain't no thing. Y'all want to have no.
I want my show, Foreign and Domestic, on the Roland Martin Network on Black Star Network. I'm just saying, Foreign and Domestic would be a good show, but whatever.
I
turned in that whole treatment.
Oh, okay. You did? You turned it in?
You called me out for.
You turned it in? Okay. All right. I'm gonna pull that up. I'm gonna take a look at it and see what it's all about. I'm gonna see what it's all about. All right. Let me get back to my show instead of I'm fooling with Miss Can't Fix Gumbo. I told y'all this was gonna happen. A federal judge in California is now permitting Trump prosecutors to reduce the charges against a deputy sheriff who viciously beat a black woman as she was recording them stopping someone. This is the video right here, okay? This cop was convicted of a felony in an excessive force case. Well, guess what? U.S. District Judge Stephen Wilson chose to be gutless and ruled that the newly appointed U.S. Attorney in L.A., Bill Asaley, can offer Deputy Trevor Kirk a misdemeanor plea deal. This decision comes 2 months after Kirk was convicted by a jury of a felony for pepper spraying and assaulting J.C. Houston, an unarmed woman, responding to an alleged robbery at a Lancaster supermarket in 2023. Asaley's decision to offer Kirk this extremely rare post-conviction plea deal led to the resignation of several federal prosecutors this month. Since the charges are now downgraded, Kirk will be able to continue his career in law enforcement and retain his right to own a firearm.
That's beautiful.
And that's for all the people who said Oh yeah, ain't no difference between Kamala and Donald. Go ahead, Greg. You were making a point.
No, I think it's. I often will say it's beautiful, and I get misinterpreted. I don't think that I'm not aware of any society in world history, and God knows I don't know all of them, and not even a fraction, but the ones I know something about. I don't know any human society where things don't come to a head eventually. When you look at this guy's face, when you look at his picture, he looks exactly as you would expect him to look. When you look at this clown, Bill Isaili, the interim U.S. District Attorney, he looks exactly as you would expect him to look. I think these folks think that we believe in the rule of law to the degree that we will be willing to sacrifice our lives for that concept. They're wrong. I don't wish anything on anyone, but I will say this. When you continue to push people, ultimately they will push back.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's so interesting today, as I said, in Birmingham at the Nationalization of Black County Officials, we got into this long conversation around policing. And it's very interesting to hear retired police women, police men, talk about the pressures that police are under. My good friend Tammy Sawyer, you've been in conversation with, who is the clerk there in Shelby County, municipal clerk, talked about the Tyree Nichols case, of course, as you've talked about many times with the family, with the lawyers, and everyone else. Ultimately, do you know what group will look at things like this and be like, you've made us less safe? Think about Black police officers on the force who are trying to do the right thing. And when this happens, that makes them less safe. Think about non-Black police officers who are racists, who think that somehow this will make them emboldened to do more atrocities, and some of them will, but that's why they don't get out of their cars in Southeast DC at nighttime. This is why they don't patrol parts of Harlem and Brooklyn at night. Ultimately, you're making people who are in law enforcement less safe with things like this, you feckless clowns. And so I'm not happy about that, but I think that ultimately karma is going to work a great deal of this out if world history teaches us anything.
And y'all always got to be real careful when y'all go places, because I got eyes and ears everywhere. Tarrant County, Texas, right there in Fort Worth, Commissioner Elisa Simmons was with Greg. And so she sent me this photo, them at the conference. And so,
wow.
I got eyes and ears everywhere.
They were singing your praises all over the conference, though, Roland. They were singing your praises, brother, for real. Shout out to Brother Kevin, everybody. Man, there's so many alphas in there. But yeah, it was listen, seriously, this network, the importance of this network, I saw it on display today. These are the officials. The mayor, of course, of Montgomery was there. The good brother Stephen Reed, LA County Commissioner. I mean, so many people. At the end of the day, these are the people who have the most control in terms of government and the ones who intervene for us, as they were talking about today. All politics are local. And if I heard it once, I heard it more times than I can count. The love, the admiration, the appreciation for the Black Star Network and for Roland Martin, because, that's what's going to keep us out of the abyss, is having our people be informed. So I'm not surprised. You do have eyes and ears everywhere. That's for sure.
Well, I just need people to understand, again, why what we do matters. And we joke and we have fun and all that sort of stuff. But I'm telling y'all, what is a massive failure for us is when we don't have our own information sources, and then we were hoping somebody else can cover us and things along those lines. And so I just keep trying to tell people that. I'm like, don't sit here. And what's also important, like, so for instance, I told y'all we were talking about what's going on. So this, let me show you this here. This was from CNN.com. Now y'all know I rarely ever show y'all anything from CNN, but they had a story published yesterday. It says Walmart, Target, and other companies warn about growing consumer boycotts. And let me be perfectly clear: the boycott against Target continues. That is, we ain't walking in there, we ain't shopping there, we're not shopping online. It's been 5 months since Nina Turner's group announced that they were launching the boycott on February 1st. They were joined by Until Freedom. March 5th was when Pastor Jamal Bryant launched his Target Fast. And so this has been going on for 5 months now. And so I need people to understand that that we are continuing to do that. On April 3rd, 1968, Dr. King made the comment referencing Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., where he said we need to redistribute the pain. And that's exactly what we need to be doing, redistributing the pain for these folks. So if these folks want to practice economic withdrawal from black people, then we should be practicing economic withdrawal from them. There are other companies that are going to be targeted. We're going to be announcing those as well. But let's make perfectly clear, and that is the boycott against Target is not over. That boycott continues. That has not changed at all. And so we just need folk to understand. We want y'all to remain, to be vigilant, to be focused in doing that, because I'm telling y'all it's working. The Target CEO, his salary dropped significantly. All of these things are happening. These things are happening before our very eyes. And so we just need to understand that these things are happening. And so I just want everybody to understand that, because again, we're putting the pressure on these companies. And listen, they can't live without black dollars. But black people have to be wise enough and smart enough to understand that when we stop showing up, when we stop giving them our money, then they're going to wake up and realize that you can't do without. And so when you got companies like Verizon pulling back on DEI, when you got others who are doing that, that's what you are seeing. And it's also important for us to have allies who, when we are in power, to use our power. The Coalition of Trade, Black Trade Unionists had their conference in Florida, and they had a panel there. And Claude Cummings out of Houston, he is the leader of the Communication Workers of America. He was speaking at the conference, and a brother hit me up and said, man, Claude mentioned you during his remarks. And I was recently in Houston for an event that was honoring Claude. And I want everybody to understand, this is what black power looks like when you are in a position of power and you have leverage, you have influence, and you make it clear to folk how you are going to move and operate. Listen to what Claude Cummings said to the black trade unionists in Florida.
I'm committing as the president of CWA that my money is not going to super PACs anymore. It's going strictly to organizations that will respect us, because I'm tired of these other groups disrespecting us by only coming to us in October and expecting us to help them win these elections when we haven't had the resources we need to work our groups. Simple as that. So please, and also, we're getting our butts kicked with these podcasters. And it doesn't make sense that we can't convince them. I finally, and I think Lee did too, President Saunders, get them to spend money with Roland Martin. Roland has a great audience, and we have to force them to give him money to help get out the vote. We need to support Roland Martin. We need to support Mark Thompson and others who have content and have the ratings to be able to get into our communities with the message, because we lost the narrative in this last election cycle. We lost it. We absolutely lost it. Who can get it back? We can get it back if we spend the resources in our community. That's my commentary.
For the folk, and I know we got a Truth Talk starting. We're going to send y'all to them in just a moment. I need y'all to understand, again, what happens when we watch and when we keep watching and we keep listening and we keep paying attention. 3 weeks ago, YouTube unveil their list of the top 100 podcasts. And they look at watch time, people, how much time people are paying attention. So it's not views. It's not, well, you got all these views. No, because you may have a short view. Do understand, we were told point blank, when they grouped all of the so-called progressive podcasts together, we were told point blank that Roland Martin Unfiltered was the #1 most listened, our watch time. If you take all these progressive podcasts, Brian Taylor Cohen, the Young Turks, David Pakman, you can, all of them, Roland Martin Unfiltered was #1 in terms of watch time. People watch us longer than all of those progressive podcasts, all of them. So what did I tell y'all? 3 weeks ago, YouTube came out with their list of 100, give me the group, so 100 podcasts, okay? Came out with the list of, so when the first week, we were number 78. The second week, we came in at number 67. Yesterday, they dropped their new list. We're now in the top 50. We're number 46. So in 3 weeks, we've gone from 78, 67 to 46. We are the only black news show on the whole list. The other black folk, comedy, entertainment. So this is a perfect example. So this is why I keep telling black folks, stop running your ass to CNN and MSNBC making announcements.
That's right.
Stop thinking that you're going to get more attention if you run to the New York Times. We are creating black-owned and black-focused content that speaks to our audience in our language, in our way, and we don't have to apologize for how we present our information. And so that's where we are right now. And so all of that energy that we had, 250,000 people watching live on March 4th. And it's right now, it's 4,100 on YouTube. That means 246,000 people are elsewhere. I need us, if we continue that energy, y'all, we change the game. And so we just have to recognize that it's a building process. It doesn't happen overnight. The reality is Reese's audience today is not what it was when they started, but you got to build that thing. When they are now traveling around the country, selling out cities, it's because you are speaking to people in a way that they think is important and relevant and the other folk not doing. And I'm just not interested. And I'm telling y'all, I have no interest. I get these calls from these other shows. Can you come on? No, I don't want to come on. Because first of all, I'm not bringing me to bring you 1 million, 2 million, 3 million views, and I'm getting, you getting attention. No, I'm good. I got enough attention. I'm not building your platform. No, we're gonna build this platform, and so that's just what our mentality has to be. Final thoughts, Reese. You start with you.
Well, I wanted to go back to the story about the deputy.
Yep, go ahead.
This is where I want us to be fucking for real. The people who were thanking Donald Trump for pardoning Larry Hoover, even though he's going to spend 100 years in jail under state charges, people who were thanking him for pardoning NBA Youngboy, who was already going to get out of jail anyway. Please do not take these pardons as some sort of olive branch to the Black community. What they are is a distraction from them undoing consent decrees, a distraction from him pardoning a sheriff who was taking bribes for deputies for hire. It's a distraction from what they're doing to further indemnify police officers from the terror and the abuse that they rain on our communities. It's a distraction from them normalizing the militarization of armed officers, whether they're ICE, HHS, FBI, whatever the situation, on our streets, hunting people. And it's a distraction from how they are over prosecuting people who are on our side. So do not for any reason think that these little nuggets that they're trying to do that make all the Black little gossip blogs are about how, see, they're trying to court the black vote. They're trying to court black men. No, it's pure distraction. We have to keep our eye on the ball on how detrimental these policies are and how they are targeting our community economically, targeting our health, targeting our safety. In every single facet, this administration is hostile to us, if we can even stay in this country. Because like we said earlier, they're trying to pack our asses up and send us to some country in Africa if they can.
Nola?
So Reese said everything that needed to be said on that point. I want to follow up about the power of your show and the power of Black media, which you are definitely leading right now. I mean, all jokes aside, wherever I go, I've been spending a lot of time in New York for different speaking events and different things. I can't tell you the amount of people that stopped me from being on this show. When I was on the Capitol, the sit-in with Speaker Jeffries, Leader Jeffries, and Senator Cory Booker, the amount of people that knew me from this show, you know, it's the red lips, the glasses, and the hair. They recognize me, and you know, I am doing a speaker series for the Harvard Black alumni about new media, and a large part of that is because of this show. So I'm incredibly grateful. And not just for me personally, but for the impact for the Black community, because this is a real and raw show. You know, like you said, you know, we joke around, there's hard hitting news, there's analysis, there's passion. You know, Greg take us to school every single Thursday. Greg is going to preach, honey. He going to take us all the way to church. We're going to learn something new. So this is such an important platform for the community. And I'm just grateful that my form of analysis and what I offer that people appreciate, because I know that people are like, you know, there's this whole thing on Blue Sky. I don't know where it came from, where people are like, we're going to see if Dr. Haynes going to cuss tonight. I don't know why that's a thing. It's a thing. I don't know why.
Because Reese is a bad influence, that's why.
Oh, everybody cusses now. I don't know why I catch all the heat. Congress people cuss, everybody cuss, the people act like I'm the only one cuss.
Steve Horsford, every time I interview him, he's like, let's fucking go. Every single time. Every time.
Oh, man.
So I just want to say, Roland, what you do for the community, you know, it is so important. And you give so many different people opportunities that don't have major, you know, social media followings. It's about substance. It's about our expertise and what we can offer. So I just want to say a heartfelt thank you. I wouldn't have my own show through the Persist Network, a lot of things because of this show. And why you trifling in a whole lot of ways, but I adore you. I want to say thank you. And I know the community appreciates it, because every time I'm out and they see me, they thank you through me. So thank you.
That's right.
Did her ass say trifling?
I did. Yes. T-R-I-F-F-I.
No, hell no. Hell no. Your ass just spelled trifling with 2 goddamn F's. It's 1 F.
I know. It's 2 F's.
How the hell? No. That's trifling.
It's 2 F's.
No, that's trifling.
See, y'all
hell no.
Y'all be picking on these.
No, hell no. Don't be mad because your ass can't spell all them damn letters behind your name. PhD, MDIV, all that shit is your no spelling ass. Go ahead, you no spelling, no gumbo, no crawfish ass. Greg, go ahead and take us home.
No, the blackest, the absolute blackest. Sure. There's nothing blacker than this, as James Weldon Johnson.
I appreciate you too, Nola.
Exactly. That, you know, and it's all love. You know, Roland, it's funny, man. As y'all know, you've heard the story many times. You know, Roland and I met in an argument and have become the best of friends, and that drives my would-be revolutionary friends crazy, because I think they have mistaken difference of opinion and style for not being able to be very close and being able to work for our liberation. And I want to thank you as well, Roland. I mean, you know, being in this space is a privilege, it's a gift, and it's a responsibility. Even as I have still to load up some more black tables, which I'm committed to that. I am. I realize that, you know, we all don't have to agree on everything, but we do invest. You know, we do invest in the liberation of our people. And again, just sitting there today with Derek Albert, who's the NAPCO co-chair, and Ray Charles Brooks, our frat brother, both who was the chair, the president of NAPCO, Stanley Moore, who is the Cook County Commissioner, Steve Reed, as I said, the mayor of Montgomery, Holly Mitchell, who's on the LA Board of Supervisors, LA County Board of Supervisors, and so many others, Loretta Smith out of Portland, to a person to see these women and men of African descent who collectively control billions of dollars of resources. I think about those people who will come on YouTube and go on social media and snipe at you and say, oh, well, this is not revolutionary, and they bootlicking, bootleg. Here's a message to you. The people who are fighting for you don't care whether or not you're going to critique them. They're too busy trying to get the message out. Night after night, day after day, month after month, year after year on this network, whether it be someone who has been brutalized by law enforcement, whether it be somebody trying to get the vote out, whether it's somebody who has got a program that they have started or are intervening at a policy level. One of the things that we talked about today was how better to utilize spaces like this. This is a classroom, and Maya Angelou was right. You are a teacher. And I know that drives the purists crazy, the ideologues crazy. Let me be very, here's the final message I want to say to the purists and the ideologues. As we fight for you too. So I'm sure this is going to be clipped and probably used for clicks and likes somewhere. And guess what? It's okay, because nobody's going to be dissuaded from fighting for y'all. So thank you, brother. Thank you for everything you do in this space.
I appreciate the panel, and my message to any of the people out there who run their mouth, who complain and critique, build your own shit. If you think, Reese, why you... if y'all know I'm petty. If you think,
I literally just said that on Blue Sky. Somebody said you messy. I said don't forget petty.
No, I'm petty. I'm King Petty. If you think you all that, and you think that your voice is better and your thoughts are better, I'm good. Go build your own shit.
Bring it on.
And this is real simple, y'all. The numbers don't lie. If the people think that your voice is better, your ideas are better, they will watch and they will listen.
Yeah.
Or they won't. So again, and I tip to my haters, I say, y'all watch all them. Y'all watch all them. I said, I don't watch them. I don't follow them. I don't follow them on social media. I don't care what they have to say. I can name 12 of them right now, but I'm not going to do that because they ain't getting free publicity. But again, if you think your shit is better, by all means, do what I did. Put your own money behind it and build your shit. And then, almost 7 years later, let's see where you're at. Reese, Nola, Greg, I appreciate y'all being on today's show. Thank you so very much. I know we went over. We're supposed to end at 8 o'clock for Truth Talks, but we're going to send y'all over there. Don't forget, support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. The goal is to get 20,000 fans contributing on average $50 each a year. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. Y'all, we ain't got millionaires, billionaires supporting this show. It's regular, ordinary people who send us resources, and I purposely do not charge for the content. And I told y'all, we got Balanced Living. We got The Other Side of Change. We got Greg's show, The Black Table. We're launching a business show. I was literally talking to someone about a show. We're going to shoot a pilot. I was talking to them just last night. We're looking at a health show. We are creating different programming opportunities to speak to various aspects of our community. But that stuff actually costs money. It does. I told y'all we're about to do a $40,000 upgrade on our IT infrastructure. Is happening as we speak. We're about to spend a $70,000 upgrading our lighting package to be able to light a lot of different spots in here as well in order to get maximum use. Listen, our Robomobile 2.0, we unveiled it on the show just the other day. I told y'all that right there, y'all, is $276,000. That's what it costs. And the insurance on that is $20,000 a year. So when we were talking about these things that we're doing, this stuff actually costs money. Infrastructure costs money. But when you build infrastructure, you now have the capacity to now begin to build things on top of that. So Cash App, if you want to contribute, you do the Stripe QR code, you see it right here. You can go to blackstarnetwork.com for the QR code as well. If you want to send a check and money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered, Venmo, RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version I read on Audible. Proceeds from that book go right back into the show. If you want to get our swag, go to rolandmartin.creator-spring.com. You see our new shirts. We tried to tell you, FAFO 2025 project is crossed out. Don't blame me. I voted for the black woman. MAGA chose between woke and broke. They chose broke. That was an Anthony Scaramucci quote. We put that on the shirt. You get all of our gear right there. The QR code there as well. Don't forget shopblackstarnetwork.com. Of course, if you want to be able to take advantage of our marketplace, black-owned products right there. Shopblackstarnetwork.com. Don't forget, we have the podcast. If you want to listen to our podcast, we on the iHeart Podcast Network. You can hear our audio from this show on all platforms, iHeart, Spotify, Apple, all the different platforms. We got that. And of course, if you want to support Fanbase, download the app. If you want to invest, they're closing in on $17 million Series A fundraising. And so go to startengine.com/fanbase. That's it, folks. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here on the Black Star Network. We'll pay tribute to Congressman Charlie Rangel in the second hour of tomorrow's show right here. So we're going to close this out, and we're going to send y'all over to Truth Talks that's streaming right now.